real quick, I want your thoughts on something.
Okay.
Is there anything wrong with Call of Duty toys being sold in Toys R Us? Is that lame or no big deal?
I don't think it's a big deal.
To me, it depends on what section it is. That should be with the more adult collectible.
Well, there's an aisle of
not.
action. There's an aisle of
Then
action
that's
figures
not.
that are all from video games.
It's
so I would
right
assume
next
it would be
to
like
it's
with
right
the-
next to the Legos section, and it's
Yeah,
Call of Duty
yeah.
Mega Blocks, and they're all like big fist, big foot, cartoony looking, like little kid children toys.
Yeah.
But it's like modern warfare, like snipers and like
That shit's
Yeah,
cool.
Hummers.
I don't understand that. Personally.
When I was a
It's an
kid,
M-rated
I
game.
played with Army Men.
Yeah,
and
same
those
here.
were kind of like my
Joe's,
favorite toys. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
loved-
true. That's true.
But I always felt like
My gear was all Vietnam era because that was what was like out.
that's funny. Mine was World War II era.
Okay.
Yeah, and I always felt like there was always this like level of removal from it. See, for me, when I saw that in the store, I didn't feel like, well, that's bad or that's good. I just thought like that's weird because I always thought Call of Duty was more. It was a mature game. It's for like, yo, hey, this ain't for little kids.
Oh, it's supposed to be for, but
here it
everyone-
is. Like, here's little. Kid
Everyone
toys.
knows that like the biggest fan base that game has is 11-year-old boys.
Oh,
I mean, my little cousin eats that shit up.
Someone in the chat said, yeah, they're hitting their target demographic.
Yeah.
You can't admit that that's your target demographic, but it is.
But kids that play with Legos still is exactly who they're marketing to. Yeah, that's who's
so.
playing the game all night.
Because when you play online, who do you play against?
Isn't Halo the same thing?
Yeah, it's kids.
Yeah, it's true.
But Halo is
Aliens.
explicitly not based in reality.
But it's still M-rated, like
Gore.
But which I think is interesting because
Violence.
it doesn't strike me as anything either. Like, yeah, it's not even based in reality, or really gory, but
it's shooting.
it is interesting.
Yeah,
Shooting
but
guns.
hey, we always talk about Call of Duty is like, yo, first scene they shoot up an airport.
yeah, that's a little extreme.
Yo, dude, they slit this dude's throat.
That's
Fuck
why
'em.
the game is rated mature. So I mean,
Like,
kids should be playing it.
Next Christmas,
But that's a parent's
I want the Call of Duty Airport Terrorist playset. Like,
Mega Block edition.
But
where does it end?
But
Hey,
I mean,
think-
when we were kids, wrestling was explicitly like not for kids. But I owned X-Pac toys. Like, I had the Rock figure.
I
yeah.
had
I've
Terminator
always
2
felt
toys.
like wrestling is explicitly for kids.
It is. It is. And when there were ratings and everything, then it's like, oh, we'll lose sponsors. We can't do this. It's not like family friendly. And it wasn't for kids, but it's definitely.
One of
for
my
kids.
oldest memories, actually, my older brother was part of like the Little Hulksters fan club. So I don't even remember where this stuff came from, but laying around my house was like little weights for like, I was 3 years old, like with these little Hulkster weights and like a little Hulkster headband.
Headband. Yeah, I remember those.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was like in like the late 80s. Like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, boys love kind of like aggressive, violent,
I've just always thought,
like cartoons and toys, like He-Man. It's all fighting and beating up and violence and
there was
aggression.
always just a layer or at least a distance from like, yo, right now, what's going on
Yeah,
right
yeah,
now?
we're
This
talking
is your
about-
playset.
We're talking about like fighting ISIS in a game that you're buying playsets of. Like, who's the bad guys? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird to me.
Yeah,
I think.
it's-
I'm not saying like get those toys out of there, but it's like that's 2014 for you.
it's got to be up to the parents' discretion, and that's a problem. I mean, unfortunately, we were talking about all the bullshit that's been going on in Ferguson, and during that same week,
Yeah.
a little kid was killed by officers for brandishing an airsoft gun. And it's like, you know, the parents should not allow that
Hey,
kid to have that
Here's
toy.
food for thought. Here's a wonderful YouTube video I saw last week. Check it out.
It's, yeah.
Guy thinks he's in GTA.
Oh, really?
Look, it's a police chase of a guy who is hijacking car after car after car.
He's just going for it.
Really?
Just he'll crash into a car and then he'll get out, pull you out of the thing, and drive off.
great.
Yeah.
He'll get out. He crashes into a car once and gets out, but can't get the other car, so gets back in, starts driving, and smoke starts coming out. I mean, it looks like he's in GTA. And after a while, you're watching it, and yeah, the title of the video is not a joke. It's like, no, this guy legitimately played GTA too much and got inspired, but it's so obvious. So I think there's no longer a question of, hey, if a crazy person plays a video game for too long, is it going to make them want to go do that? Well, here's an example of it.
Yeah, I think
Hey, guy thinks he's in GTA. Wonderful video. Give it a peep.
I think people do that with like movies and stuff too.
Yeah, I mean any kind of inspiring thing like you.
Yeah, but
have
you're not getting Hurt Locker action figures.
No, McFarlane's made like.
No, that's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
Well,
I understand.
there's been military action figures that are out there. McFarlane has made like Spec Ops guys, Navy SEAL dudes. Like, there's been military collectors that have been into that kind of thing.
I also saw this
But-
other. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, like, back to what I was saying before. I don't want anyone to take what I was saying the wrong way, but when whenever this question comes up, should kids be allowed to do this thing? It's up to the fucking parents. And I think parents do such a shitty job sometimes.
Yeah,
that
Sean.
You have things like this poor kid getting murdered by the police officers. You have things like...
You know what? It's fun. When I was younger, I used to always... I wrote a report for school once about how video games violence does not affect people.
Uh-huh.
And I used to really believe that. And I would always argue, like, you know, millions of people play video games and they don't become violent. But I think as I get older, my tune is starting to change. I think that maybe you could have argued that that was true back when I was making that argument, but that all bets are off when you're born and you lead a whole life of playing video games. And because I remember a story from a few years ago too of a 5-year-old or however old they were, shot their parents because their parents took Halo away from them or something. It's just crazy. Like these people.
Well, that's kill. I mean, their parents could have taken Operation away from them in 1982, and the same thing could have happened.
Maybe
I think
operated.
that
they took their game away.
I think when you're younger, and because I felt the same way when I was like a teenager, and there was like the big debate about, oh, violent video games. What are we gonna do? Like, what do they do? And I was so like passionate about like they don't make you violent. They don't make you violent. And I think that comes from a place of wanting to believe it more than it actually.
Yeah, they don't make me violent.
Exactly. And
They
so-
may make some people.
And I think that I don't think either side has a lot of ground to stand on. I think it's incredibly gray. I mean, yeah, it makes some people violent. So do movies. So does TV. So does
Yeah.
music.
None of it's-
so do daily human interactions.
Yeah.
So
None of it's going away because
Exactly.
it makes a lot of money.
yep. Some people are just wired a little different.
They're easily influenced.
Everyone's wired a little bit different, but some people, take influence from that stuff.
I think people are very impressionable.
I agree.
That's the bottom line. You know, there's some cultures that have culturally they suffer from things that other cultures don't. You know, like some cultures have this phenomenon of suicide, for example. Like some cultures are more prone to commit suicide. Some cultures are more prone to have one-off people go on rampages. And I think that, you know, I was reading a while ago that there was this phenomenon in like maybe it was like Japan or China where there were legends of certain swords, and they would say that the swords would be cursed and the swords would be bloodthirsty, and anybody who owned this sword, it was only a matter of time before you went on a rampage and just started killing people with the sword. And people who would own these swords, time and again, would go on these rampages where, and it's like
With the sword.
with the cursed sword. And so culturally, it's like well known, like, oh yeah, some of these swords are cursed and they will elicit a bloodlust within you. And it just made me think, like, does everybody in your community believing that, like, make it
Self-fulfill
make
the
it
prophecy.
happen? Yeah, like media does make you violent. Video games do make you violent, but also like everybody holding an opinion or just, you know, feeling one way, it does affect that one individual who is susceptible to it.
Exactly.
I know, you gotta look at this stuff. You gotta look at it. It's interesting.
Scary.
I think it's nice to debate and everything. I think it's tough when you get people who are so passionate on either side.
Yeah, ultimately I don't care.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play games. Whatever. I'm gonna watch movies. Whatever. I just watched Taxi Driver not too long ago. Again, for like the 25th time. And
I'm worried about you.
every time I see it,
Did you say over 20 times?
I've seen that movie definitely over 20 times.
Dude, I know. I gotta watch out.
I've watched that movie 3 times back to back.
One of the drawers in the
Yeah.
one of the kitchen drawers, the fucking it sticks like crazy. It's like the
What's Rocco doing?
the rollers
What?
just
This
don't
dude he doesn't care.
been
I didn't say I didn't
removed.
care.